Class 9, Chapter 9, Probability. Here we are going to see about trials. See, trial. Each performance of a random experiment is called a trial. See, each performance means once I flipping a coin, that each outcome is called a trial. Or once I throw a dice, and then each outcome is called a trial. Otherwise, we can say it is a performing an experiment once is called a trial. Performing experiment once is called a trial. Here the outcomes, see, the outcome is, we call this a trial. Here we get the head. So head is the outcome. In dice, the outcome is number 5. Again I throw the dice. See, we get the number 1. So for that each trials, each experiment, right? Each experiment we get the different numbers. These outcomes are called a trials. And also a trial is a subset of a sample space. Let's see the sample space later. But the trial is a subset of sample space, because sample space is the biggest set. Sample space is the biggest set in the probability. The trial are the subset of the sample space. So trials means each experiment, each outcomes are the trials. And we see the outcomes here. What is the outcomes here? Head 5 1. So each result of the trial, is the outcome. We call this when we get head, that is the outcome. When we get number 5, that is the outcome. When we get number 1, that is the outcome in a dice. Now see the outcome. The result of each trials is called the outcomes. So this is an example of outcomes, that is the, if you get head or tail, this is the outcome. Or in a dice we get number 1, number 2 or number 3 up to number 6. This each outcomes, each trials, this is one of the trial, right? So each outcomes in a trial is the result of outcome. Next we see the sample point. Sample point is each outcome of a random experiment is called a sample point. So each and every experiment we have a outcome. Without outcome we cannot do any experiment, right? So we expected one outcome when we are experimented. So each outcome of a random experiment is a sample point. Here we take the dice and the coin. If I roll in the die, we get a number 2. So the number 2 we get is a sample point. And then again I roll in this, we get a number 5. See, this is also a sample point. We have to use the set bracket here to mention the elements. See, once I roll is the experiment, right? Once I rolling the die is an experiment. The outcome is the sample point. First I get 2, second I get 5. These outcomes are called a sample point. Once I flipping the coin, we get a head. When flipping the coin is an experiment, the head is the outcome. This outcome is a sample point. This outcome is a sample point. And also the sample point is a subset of sample space. Sample point is also a subset of a sample space. Next we see the sample space. Sample space is the biggest set. Let's see the set of all possible outcomes or sample point. All the possible outcomes or the sample point of a random experiment is called a sample space, and the sample space is denoted by S. For example, here S is the sample space, right? Now, all possible outcomes, if I throw the dice, what are the possible outcomes means either it can be get 1, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. These are the all possible outcomes. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the sample space for dice. And what is the sample space for the coin? Here the S is the sample space. In coin we have two faces, right? The all possible outcomes means we can get head or tail. We can get either head or tail. So the two outcomes are the sample space, that is all possible outcomes is called a sample space, and it is denoted by S. The number of sample space, it is denoted as N of S. See here S, we have the values number from 1 to 6. So for dice, N of S, number of sample space is equal to 6. Coin, the number of sample space is equal to 2. Only 2 elements is here, head and tail. In dice we have 6 faces. So N of S is equal to 6 for dice, and coin is 2. So sample space is the biggest set, that is all possible outcome, that is the possibilities of all outcomes, right? Next we see the event. Event is nothing but a trial. Event is nothing but a trial. What we see in a trial? Performing experiment once is called a trial, or each experiment of a random experiment is called a trial. Here also we have the same. One or more than one outcomes is called a event. Here one or more than one outcome is called an event. For example, in a die, here we know the 6 faces we have, right? The number from 1 to 6. So I write the sample space first. That is sample space is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sample space means all the possible outcomes. So these are the possible outcomes we can get in a die. Here the event is here the even number only. Even number only means this. Let me take it as a set as even number. The even number is 2, 4, 6. This is the event. The event of, here we have 3 outcomes. Not only one outcomes. Here we have 3 outcomes. One or more than one outcomes is called an event. Here A is the event of even number in a dice. So by this condition we can say sample space is the biggest set. 2, 4, 6 is the subset of the sample space. So the subset, any subset of a sample space is an event. Any subset of a sample space we can say it is an event. So event means one or more than one outcomes is called an event. And in next video we see the types of events. Thank you, students.